It's the Ross Tucker Football Podcast.
Oh, yeah, it is. But it's not just any Ross Tucker Football Podcast. It is a teaching tutorial Thursday. Yes, it's redundant. I don't care. It's kind of a thing we do. Presented by DraftKings, featuring Greg Cosell from NFL Films University, the NFL matchup executive producer and on-air talent extraordinaire. Tomorrow, we will have a Winners Friday and a Picks Friday. That means if you want to get the Madden, send me confirmation that you got a story from myfrontpagestory.com. You ordered one for a loved one for the holidays. No one sent me one yet, so we might have no Maddens this week. It's up to you guys. You can pretty much get a free Madden if you send me a story from myfrontpagestory.com today, because nobody sent me one yet. I don't know why not. We get all kinds of orders all the time. It's an awesome, awesome gift. Trust me, I wouldn't have invested in the company if I didn't know that it was incredible. I've gotten them from multiple people. We'll also have a Spread the Word winner at Ross Tucker NFL, at Ross Tucker Pod. You guys know the deal there. Instagram. Facebook, I'm looking for shares. Twitter, I'm looking for quote tweets. That's the key. Quote tweets on Twitter, shares on Facebook. Make sure if you share, you're not like in a privacy setting that I can't see that you actually shared to be able to make you the winner. And then we'll have the YouTube shout out. I did a couple of those cameo style videos this week already. You guys should check them out. YouTube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. All you have to do is subscribe and or go ahead and make a comment. We'll get to the patrons later on in the show. Right now, it's Big Show time.
The Big Show.
All right, he is the aforementioned Greg Cosell. Greg, we got a game tonight. Mac Jones and the Patriots against Matt Ryan and the Atlanta Falcons. I guess everybody's talking about the Patriots and Mac Jones, rightfully so. I want to know what you are seeing from this young man.
Well, I think he's playing really well, and it made me think. Obviously, we had 5 quarterbacks taken in the top 15 a year ago, and Jones was the last one. And it's easy now to say, as we've seen half of the NFL season play out, that Jones was taken too low. That's always easy to say. I think that people, and I'm not talking about people on social media, where there is a sense that you can't play quarterback anymore in the NFL unless you can run around. I think what coaches do and personnel people is they all ascribe traits to quarterbacks, and they probably all ascribe the same traits. That's not the tough part. It's the value you ascribe to those certain traits. And that's why different coaches will see different quarterbacks differently. So Mac Jones, I don't think there was any question that people knew that he was accurate, that they knew that he had a good sense of timing, that he knew where to go with the football. I don't think there was any sense of that. They also knew he didn't have a gun, which obviously shows up on film. It showed up both on college and in the NFL. But Mac Jones is in a system that really does a good job of defining things for him. He knows where to go with the ball within timing and structure. He sees things, and the ball comes out. You rarely see Mac Jones get stuck in the pocket, because we know he's not going to really make plays with his legs, Ross. He's not immobile, but he's not going to be a playmaker. So there's so much that goes into this, and everybody wants to reduce it to simplest terms. But right now, he's playing really well. He's incredibly efficient. The system is efficient. The ball comes out to the right receiver at the right time versus the coverage. That's what Mac Jones is.
So a couple thoughts here, Greg. Number one, having seen him in the joint practices and in the preseason game against the Eagles, I think he has a stronger arm than he gets credit for. I mean, he's not doesn't have a hose, but I didn't come away from watching him live thinking his arm's not strong enough at all.
Well, arm strength is relative. Then it comes down to kinds of throws. I think that his arm can make all the necessary throws that he's asked to make within that system. Can you compare him to the guys that have power arms? No, but his arm is certainly strong enough to make those throws. Now, one thing he absolutely has going for him, which is one reason why he can be very effective in muddied pockets, is he does not have to stride, Ross, to throw the ball. And that's a key factor in what he is and why he can be successful. You know, it's like a batter in baseball who doesn't have to take that big stride with his front foot. He can take a short step and still throw the ball with the needed speed for the given throw. So therefore, he can work fairly effectively when there are people around him. There are quarterbacks that are striders, that when you get people around them, they lose efficiency because they really need to stride in order to throw the football.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing is I just think it's there's this narrative that you got to be able to make second reaction plays.
Yep.
But I don't know, some of the guys that have been the best for a long time, the Manning brothers and Drew Brees and Tom Brady and even Matt Ryan, they don't make a whole lot of second reaction plays, Greg. They've been really good for a long time.
No.
If you know where to go with the ball and
Yep.
and you're accurate, you don't really need to make second reaction that often.
No, you're 100% right. And that's why I've been saying for the last number of years, because so many of our colleagues, Ross, people who write about this and cover the NFL say that, well, now you have to be able to do that. But if you want to say that, and that's fine, it's kind of tossed out flippantly now, then you have to have an answer conceptually for the Tom Brady's, the Drew Brees, the Mac Jones. And again, Mac Jones is in his first year, so we're not going to get him a gold jacket just yet, but he's playing very well. So you have to have an answer for those guys conceptually. And you're right. And that always bothers me when I see that, because it's so easy to say, but they don't provide any evidence or any conceptual reasoning behind that, other than, wow, it looks great when guys run around and make plays.
I think it's a really nice to have. I don't think it's a have to have. And I think the more often a guy's, doing second reaction plays, part of me, Greg, thinks, well, why didn't he? What happened to the first part of the play?
Correct.
Correct. That's kind of. I don't listen. I played 7 years, 5 teams, 9 head coaches. There was never one time where the quarterback came in the huddle and said, "Second reaction play on 2, ready, break."
Right.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah, I've always joked too, Ross, that when in practice, the coaches don't roll the ball out and say, "Let's run around and make a play today."
Correct.
That's not the way it works.
All right, let's get to some of these other games I think are really interesting. The NFC wildcard race is fascinating.
Yes.
And one of the big games will be in Philadelphia, where the Saints have lost a couple in a row. I remember last week you said you thought Trevor Siemian actually played pretty darn well against the Falcons. They're taking on the Eagles, who are coming off their best game of the year. So I'd like to hear you talk about both these teams.
Yeah, well, let's start with the Eagles offense, because prior to the Saints game in the previous 2 weeks, the Eagles had put Jalen Hurts under center much more and were very effective doing that. Against the Chargers, even though they lost, their offense was efficient. It had a rhythmic feel to it. They had a play-action pass game under center, the conventional play-action pass game. Then this past week, it was totally different. In fact, until garbage time, in the fourth quarter, the final drive, Hurts only had 2 snaps under center in the entire game. So they basically made that a Jalen Hurts game. They put him in the gun. They worked the run game off him with both zone read and design run game elements. They threw just enough on first down to be proactive and aggressive. The question I have now is this game the template going forward, or was this just done against the Broncos, who they beat because they felt that was the way to go? I don't know the answer to that, but I watched that game this past week against Denver, and in all honesty, Ross, I started to think of the Ravens offense. They played that game with Jalen Hurts in much the same way the Ravens have played over these last number of years with Lamar Jackson. It was a Jalen Hurts game, but that's not what they did the week before against the Chargers and the week before that against the Lions. So I'm really anxious to see where they go with this.
All right, so last week you got a bunch of attention, Greg, because you were the only person out there that said Trevor Siemian actually played really well against the Atlanta Falcons. What did you see from Simeon and the Saints against the Titans?
Well, I guess I was the only one who watched the tape then, Ross. Maybe that was the case. I thought Simeon played pretty well. Again, see, you have to understand what Simeon is. He's a ball distributor. He's an executor. He needs the scheme to present the throws for him. He's not going to make a lot of second reaction plays. He's not a great thrower, so you're not going to be wowed. He'll miss a few too many that he shouldn't miss, which is why he's essentially a backup quarterback. But given what Trevor Simeon is, he played well. And for 2 weeks in a row now, he has brought the Saints back in the fourth quarter. Obviously, they missed a 2-point conversion this week, but he made some big-time throws in the fourth quarter against zone coverage. He made some excellent throws throughout the game against the Titans versus man coverage. So Trevor Simeon has played very efficiently for the most part in his 2 starts.
Why aren't they scoring more points?
I think their run game has not been very good. It's not, obviously Kamara was out this week, but even this year, Kamara's yards per rush has not been very good. The run game has not been efficient enough. And because Simeon is an executor and a distributor who needs a fully dimensional offense to really be effective, if they can't run the ball, they're not going to be consistent with their ability to move the ball.
Let's talk Colts and the Bills. Another game I'm really looking forward to. What interests you in this one? Pick something out for Colts and Bills.
Well, I think the Bills offense, coming off that bad loss to the Jaguars a week ago, they clearly had a come to Jesus meeting in the building in at One Bills Plaza, whatever it is. Because they played 15 snaps of 21 personnel with a fullback, okay? They put Josh Allen under center in this game. He had 14 throws under center. They've not done that. I don't think they've done that in 2 years, maybe even longer. And he was really good under center, 11 for 14 for 192 yards. And play action from under center, where he was really good in this game. So their offense was totally different in this game. And I know people will say it's the Jets, and that's fine. But it's the concept. They clearly felt that, hey, it was too much shotgun, too much, let's just make Josh be great every single week, no matter how good your quarterback is. And Josh Allen, certainly as far as physical tools, is a top 2 or 3 quarterback in this league. It's very hard to play every week and say, you know what? You have to be great every week for our offense to work. They ran the ball more. They still need more volume and production out of the run game to really be a fully dimensional offense. But this was a totally different offense than the one we had seen up to this point this season.
Wow, that's really interesting. By the way, Greg, overcoming the odds, rewriting the playbook, delivering under pressure. The MVPs of small business lead their teams to victory all year long. Visa is proud to provide playmakers everywhere with more tools to help grow their business, help them achieve even greater success, because the more people we can empower, the more we all win. Visa, a network working for everyone. Greg, let's talk about the marquee Sunday afternoon game. It's the Cowboys against the Chiefs.
Yeah, and I think you have to talk about Patrick Mahomes. We've talked about him going back literally to week 1 or week 2. And I've talked about a lot of his unnecessary movement, the fact that he wasn't taking throws that were there. So now we saw a game this past week where it was probably his best game in quite some time. He was very efficient playing within structure. He played with a sense of timing and rhythm. He took the throws that the offense presented versus the defense. He cut out almost all the unnecessary movement, both inside and outside the pocket, that had defined his game far too much over the last month or so. So this was a good performance. And you saw it right away that he was much better playing within the structure and the order and the purpose of the progressions. The ball was coming out of his hands, because that's the way it's designed. That's what we spoke about, when we just spoke about Mac Jones. Offense is designed, and the ball has to come out. And Mahomes has been sensational in his career making second reaction plays. But as we've discussed, there's a random improvisational element to that. And they needed to get back to Mahomes getting the ball out. And that's what he did exceptionally well against the Raiders. We'll see if that continues. I'm very curious to see the Cowboys, who played more cover one, man coverage with a single post safety than any defense in the NFL. I'm curious to see if they stay with that, because I don't think they can really match up to Tyreek Hill, who is beginning to look pretty quick again.
Yeah, he certainly is. All right. What about the Miami Dolphins have said Tua Tagovailoa will start the next game. They
Yes.
play the Jets. I guess I have kind of two questions, Greg. What did you see from Tua against the Ravens, or the Ravens defense against him? And did you notice Tua's finger at all? Did you notice that he was not normal? Because obviously he didn't start the game because they felt like he wasn't 100%.
No, that's hard to say. Tua, it's funny. You talk about arm strength. We mentioned that with Mac Jones. Now, Tua is another guy that, and again, we can debate whose arm is stronger. Tua is not a drive thrower. You could almost argue that Mac Jones has a stronger arm than Tua. Tua is not a drive thrower. He can't really push the ball down the field. He's another compact delivery guy, but it does not look the same as Mac Jones. I don't think this game told you a whole lot about where he is. He's obviously their starter. He's going to play. He had one of his long throws was a total bust by the defense. So
they had a couple of those, Greg. They had a couple where they just dropped Isaiah Ford and Albert Wilson.
Yeah, the Albert Wilson 64-yarder, they totally dropped coverage on him. So you can't really look at that. He hit Waddle on a 35-yarder on a deep sail route where he was matched on a quarter's safety. But Tua was a beat late, and the ball did lose energy on the back end. So those are the kinds of throws that Tua struggled with. I thought what was most fascinating about that game, and was clearly specific by the Dolphins against the Ravens, was, and I'm sure it's been talked about by a lot of people, was their defensive approach, where they put 6, 7, 8 defenders on the line of scrimmage in pressure fronts and basically played kind of zero match coverage behind it. It was off coverage, but it was zero. So it wasn't press. And with those pressure fronts, you don't know exactly who to block. Ross, that's a bear. You played O-line. When there's 7 guys on the line of scrimmage, even if you have, it either forces you to keep 7 in protection, or if you only want to keep 6 in protection, then you have to decide who's going to be the free defender and the free rusher, and you don't know who's coming and who's not coming.
Yeah, that's I've seen more and more. The Dolphins did that to the Ravens a lot that night too. They did a lot.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what they did to the Ravens. They did it last year to the Rams when Jared Goff was the quarterback and posed significant problems for the Rams. So the Ravens had no answer for the Dolphins doing that. And I don't think the Dolphins will do that every single week. I think that was very specific to the Ravens, but the Ravens never had an answer for that.
Greg, how about the Niners offense? that was what I thought they could be, what I love seeing. I could watch Kittle and Juszczyk every play. I could just watch those guys every play.
Yeah, the 49ers run game is very tough to prepare for with its personnel groupings, its different formations, its heavy emphasis on shifts and motions, its multiple run game concepts and blocking schemes. We saw what they did with Samuel. For them, that's kind of part of what they do. That's not gimmicky. That's kind of part of what they do. Now, they also played against a Rams defense that really doesn't match up. It's very interesting that the Rams have Jalen Ramsey and they do not use him as a matchup corner. So even when Samuel was split, they don't match up, which is very interesting to me. Obviously, they believe that that's the best way to play, or they play differently. But Jalen Ramsey is not used as a matchup corner in the Rams offense, in the Rams defense.
Last one I want to ask you about, just the Titans. They keep winning. They're not really putting up a whole lot of yards or points, but they find a way to win. What are you seeing from them? Their skill has been diminished with injuries, but somehow Tannehill still gets it done.
Yeah, they're very interesting because their offense the last 2 weeks against the Rams and this week against the Saints has really not been very good. And it's going to have to be better, I think, to get where they want to go. but their defense, which was not good a year ago, has become extremely good. This front four is playing at an extremely high level. We've spoken about that over the last number of weeks. Jeffrey Simmons is an extremely dominant defensive tackle. Obviously Aaron Donald is viewed as the best. Simmons is getting to be right there. He's a different kind of player than Aaron Donald because he's much more violent and physical. But Jeffrey Simmons has been dominant. Danico Autry has been a really good player over the last month, 6 weeks. They're getting pressure from the outside with Harold Landry, who's among the league leaders in sacks and pressures. So they're being driven by their defense right now. Their offense, the run game has not been very good since Henry went out. And their pass game has just been kind of okay. They're going to have to create more explosive plays offensively. That's something they're going to have to figure out.
Check him out on social media so you always know what he's up to at Greg Cosell. Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Ross. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, and I appreciate Simply Safe. You know why? Our friends at Simply Safe are giving you guys early access to all their Black Friday deals. 50% off their award-winning home security. I love Simply Safe because it has everything you need to make your home safe. Indoor and outdoor cameras, comprehensive sensors, all monitored around the clock by trained professionals who send help the instant you need it. It was even named the best home security system of 2021 by U.S. News and World Report. You guys know, I've talked about it before. I am a big believer in having home security. The cameras are huge, especially with, I don't know about you, we get all kinds of packages to our house, especially this time of year. You need to have the cameras to make sure nobody's coming up to your house and taking packages off your porch or whatever. Hurry, because supplies are limited. So you can take 50% off at simplysafe.com/Tucker. Are you kidding me? 50% off? Go to simplysafe.com/Tucker.
Tuck's Takes.
Good morning, Ross. Let's get to a couple emails today, but first, your pick. Tonight's game, Thursday Night Football, Atlanta Falcons, New England Patriots.
Well, I think, Bri, it's probably pretty hard to pick against the Patriots right now. I do think the Falcons will play better than they did against the Cowboys. That was a disgraceful performance against the Cowboys. I think that they will be much better, but I still think the Patriots winning, and Patriots are on a roll right now, man. I mean, their defense is really good. I think they'll take away Kyle Pitts tonight, who is sort of the Falcons' only weapon. Cordero Patterson's beat up. Calvin Ridley's on the NFI list. The Falcons, I feel like Matt Ryan's, coming to a gunfight with like a knife or like a little pop gun. He doesn't really have, the heavy artillery, so to speak. It makes it really tough to beat the Patriots. Really tough. And I don't have a lot of faith in the Falcons being able to stop this Patriots offensive attack right now, the way they're running the ball, the way the O-line's playing. So I think this is, like 31-20 Patriots, something like that. I'll go 31-20 that the Patriots will win the game. Let's get to an email, Bri.
Ever wanted to ask an NFL player a question? Well, here's your chance. It's time to Ask Ross.
The email address is ross@rosstucker.com. We absolutely love getting your email questions. Try to get to as many of them as we can. We'll do at least 2 today. And then, especially if you take advantage of any of our sponsors, we guarantee to read and respond to your question on the air. So Simply Safe for any other ones you guys hear, we love it because LinkedIn, Crocs, that means you guys are supporting us. So we'll absolutely answer your question. What do you got, Bri?
We're going to start today with Lamar Jackson, Ross. This is a question about going agentless, and would you have ever considered going agentless and negotiating your own deal? Why or why not? Also, has your philosophy on that changed over time, knowing what you know now? That is from Kava, and he's got another follow-up question, but we'll do that one first.
All right. So the first answer, Cave, is yes, I would have considered that. There were times where I really took the bull by the horns in my career a few times. Um, I think coming out as a rookie, since the contracts are slotted, I would consider it. But I would still have a paid professional, whether it's a lawyer that I'm paying hourly or whatever. I would still have them review the legalese of the contract. So I wouldn't have just signed it. I would still have some professional look it over. But really, what I would do, and I think what some of these guys do, is I would negotiate my contract down. I would negotiate the agent's fee down. I paid 1.5% during my NFL career. A lot of guys pay 3%. I paid 1.5%. To me, that's the happy medium. You still have support. You still have the agent, especially for a guy like me that was bouncing around. I needed an advocate to try to help me get on another team. You still have that. It was really more about that than negotiating. It was my agent, Joe Linta, who was terrific. It was him giving me an opportunity in the first place. It was him then helping me get traded to Cleveland, helping me get picked up by Buffalo when I got cut. My agent was tremendous for me and very much worth the 1.5%. I think if you're a star player like these guys, I wouldn't have no agent. Like, who's his marketing guy? I mean, you got to have a marketing guy. He can make so much money off the field. And I would have somebody else to look over the contract just because of the leverage I would have. I would negotiate a lower rate.
And he follows that up with another question. Admiring your work ethic and commitment to your media and attention to the broadcasting, believe that if you keep this up, you likely get some kind of leveling up in growth or prestige over time for sure. If something that you're currently working on were to break for you, what would you think would be the most exciting for that? Would it be in broadcasting, say like becoming the Eagles or a college team's full-time play-by-play guy? Looks like you seem to be heading there with Army, although by the way, you're not the play-by-play guy, the analyst, or with media and podcasting. Would you like to blow up like a Ryan Russillo, or maybe even with gambling, become someone like a Doug Kazarian outside of NFL, who becomes somewhat of a go-to guy in NFL gambling? So all the advantages and disadvantages, financial implications, but just curious on what would be your preferred, given that type of work involved, the financial reward implications, and the amount of work required on your part.
Yeah, good question, Cave. So my favorite thing to do, my favorite thing to do is to call games. So I guess I would just like to be doing the biggest games possible, right? So whatever the biggest game is I can achieve in my career, for the most money and the most people watching and getting a chance to see, to learn from me and see how much I enjoy what I do, that would probably be my vote. So whether that's doing NFL games on TV or radio, or doing college games on TV in the Big Ten or something, I don't really know. But I guess my favorite thing I do is the games. Now, the big negative of the games is the travel. So I guess if I'm doing really big games and getting paid really well for it, then maybe I would only do one a week. And that would be less travel than like last week when I did 3 games, or next week when I'll do 2 because of Thanksgiving. Actually, I take that back. I'll be doing 3 next week because I've got Thanksgiving, and then I've got Houston, UConn on Saturday, and the Browns and the Ravens on Sunday. So I got 3 more games again next week, which is fun and I love it. It's just a lot of travel. I guess the other thing that would be cool would be if I could do, like, for example, Ravens, Penn State, or the Eagles, in the sense that for the home games, I could just drive there that day, So then there's half the games really aren't any travel because it's a local game for me. Good question. But that would be very cool for me. I also love filling in for Dan Patrick and maybe getting a show formatted like that with like Danette. So that would be cool, like a daily show that is live and has callers and stuff. But I've done that before with SiriusXM, and it's okay. It's not It's not like doing a game. Doing a game is my favorite thing. So we got the 2 questions there, Bri. What I need to make sure people know is if you have a question about what's going on with your car, you got to use the free Fix Finder service at AutoZone. You can troubleshoot more dashboard lights, including your check engine light, ABS light, and service interval light. The free Fix Finder will give you possible solutions for your lights, all backed by verified technicians. It'll even send you your full result in a detailed Fix Finder report straight to your email. So you'll have all the information you need to take on the fix. It's the most complete free warning light report backed by technician verified fixes, and you can only find it at AutoZone. So next time your dashboard lights pay you a visit, just get in the zone. AutoZone. Love the 2 questions there. That's one email, but we got the 2 questions. Shout outs: Pizza Boy Brewing, Sporticulture, Vision Comics with an X, HumanHeadNYC.com, SteakhouseSports.com. All the other podcasts have now been posted. So both Fantasy Feasts, Even Money podcast, College Draft. Please check out one other show and let me know what it is. I'd love to hear it. Love to hear what you guys think of it. We'll do the Winners Friday, the Thursday Night Football recap, Picks Friday. Tomorrow, you still have a chance to get one of those last 2 Maddens. All you have to do is get an incredible story for a loved one at myfrontpagestory.com. I think we're done here.
Thanks for listening to the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. Make sure to also subscribe to the Fantasy Feast, Even Money, Business of Sports, and College Draft. All available at Apple Podcasts, rosstucker.com, or wherever podcasts can be found.
A lot of times on the show, I mentioned DraftKings. Here's what you need to know. You got to be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. By the way, if what I was talking about included a deposit bonus, doesn't always, sometimes it does. Deposit bonus requires 25 times playthrough, and deposit bonuses are paid out in site credit.